and others. Of course, they are very helpful, but then you need to understand how to use them, how to utilize them very well. So Blowout, please can you confirm you've shared that class assessment on the drive?
On the drive, no, not yet. Um, no, I haven't shared it on the drive. If you want to, let me see, how do you get access to it? I don't know, did you resend the request? I don't think I saw any requests.
Yeah, I did. I resent the
Just
request.
now?
Yeah.
Okay. So give me one sec. Let me see quickly. Um, I'll have to look for it. I don't think I see it yet. So, do you want to share the assessment here on this Zoom link? And I'll spend some time to pull it into the drive.
Okay, let me see if I can share that right here, right away. And
Okay.
nevertheless, if I can't achieve that, I can just share my screen with that because it's on PDF. It's not online, right? So, mm,
Yes, so share your screen, then while I try to figure out how to upload it. Let's do that. Thank you.
okay, okay. Okay, guys. Actually wanted us to have access to that, but I think we have little technical glitch around that. Nevertheless, it will be fixed. So I will share my screen now with the PDF, and we'll go to it just sequentially, and I'll get you guys partake in it. This would, as I said, it will help me understand so far our progress level, and as well is going to give you a real view sample of how the security plus exam is going to look like, what you're going to see, a real scenario of that. And yeah, after now we're going to chip in our approach and know how best we're going to handle it. Yeah, so just give me some minutes to share my screen. Yeah, please let me know if you can see my screen now. Please, can we see my screen now?
Yes.
Oh, good, 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 good. Okay, guys. So please, I will need us to all partake in this. Yeah, Nicola, you're welcome to the meeting, to the class. So I want us to all partake in this. Just give us some minutes. Going to be brief. You can just get a little sheet and pen that down, pen down your answer or if you want to memorize that. So we'll discuss that right away after now. Let me know when you're done with the first three so I can scroll down.
Sorry, are we supposed to answer this question or what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, I need us to pen down our answer. Just get a sheet of paper, just pen down your answer. What you think are the answers to the questions from your understanding so far. We're going to discuss these questions right away. Okay, guys. I believe we all attempted the questions, right? Okay. So actually subsequently we'll, we'll definitely have these as such as stated as assessments. So I would actually want to actually get um your feedback actually and review that, grade you guys. Yeah, just to encourage you. And but nevertheless, for today, we are just going to go through this together and discuss this. As said earlier, for the benefit of Nico, I think that joined later. This is basically to help you just to assess what you've done so far. I'll do it basically progressively after each chapter. We're going to have something like this just to assess your knowledge of that chapter and as well expose you to typical security plus examination question, right? So it helps you get prepared actually for the exam very well because from statistics and research, 99%, 94, not 99, 94% of these questions are being repeated. So if you can understand them, not just knowing the answer, right, but understanding them. So it should, in case the question are being twisted a little bit, you still be able to implement, okay, why did I actually pick this solution or why is this answer correct? You'll be still able to implement that and get the right answer. Yeah. So basically that is one of my objective. And of course, just to reiterate as well, the general objective of this class, which is to help you be a well-rounded tech person. Yeah, so we're going to pay emphasis on that at some point, of course, during the process of during our program. Yeah, I'm going to divert a little bit away from the course. Yeah, at every point, I will let you know that, hey, I'm doing this. It's not covered in the material, but you need this actually because a majority of the things covered in this material actually needs you to have a prerequisite knowledge. If you've observed so far from our slide, you've observed so far from our slide, um, it's not everything there. Majority of the things there, I try to expatiate more on them. I try to give you a prerequisite knowledge because they assume you already know that, right? They don't go into to this explaining or giving some scenarios. So they assume you already have knowledge of that. So I try to elaborate that to help you come to standard with them so you can move with that pace and understanding. Yeah, so I would choose more of that, throw more light on that. So to help you actually even move more faster than the material, as the case may be. Yeah, so to start with this, the assessment. For the first question, oh, which type of malicious actor is characterized by lacking sophisticated technical skill and using cracking tools created by others? What do we guys think is the option for this? We can drop our answer on the chat box. We considered, let me open that. Yeah, we considered this, which are the threat actors, and I was able to explain each and every one of these. And I mentioned that yes, you need to understand the difference between them because your knowledge would be tested on them just to be sure that you have understanding of what each and every of these does. So that is one of the questions we're having here now. Um, Which of these malicious acts or the threat actors are characterized by lacking sophisticated technical skills and using cracking tools created by others? Let's drop our respond on the chat, please. Okay, Nikoro. Um, Ugo and Ben, what do you think? Okay, flow out. Okay. Okay, great. You all got the answer. That is nice. So I don't need to explain more there. It means you got the explanation of script script kidding. They basically don't have the technical knowledge. They just go on YouTube, go anywhere, source for this information, and try to go sequentially with that to actually perpetuate any attack or any hack. So they are not the one, they are not the originator of those scripts, they are not the generator of it. They don't have those technical, but they can sequentially read through the instruction and implement it. Yeah, so that is very good. Okay, that takes us to the next question. You need to subscribe to a threat intelligence feed using your unified threat management solution. Yeah. So, which standard protocol is used by UTM, which is Unified Threat Management tools to exchange threat intelligence information? So basically, in this four option, the two things we have considered actually revolves around option A and option D. Those are the two things we saw on our slide so far, right? These two other things, of course, we're still going to do them, but just to give you hint of what that question is prompting from, it's requesting threat intelligence. Okay, we have gone. So what do we think is the answer to question two? Oh, great. Only one person got the answer actually, and that is flow out. Okay, so let me explain this a little bit. Here's the slide. Okay, so we actually consider threat intelligence source, right? Which I explained to be where you need to go and see the current thread, right? You need to always have this. check at all points. So you know what is going on, which threat are you trying to prevent your assets from, and this will help you put some incident response in place, right? And so we define that, and we are like, okay, but we cannot be going there regularly to check that. So there is need to actually automate that. And so that was what actually brought us to the automated indicator sharing, right? The AIS. And we actually said this automated indicator sharing does this, it achieves this automated method using a format, and that is what we call, using a standard format, that is what we call the structure threat information expression. Yeah, so I think that was a little bit confusing. You see, sometimes these questions are not straight, they are not direct, right? But you need to reason through. Yeah, so it makes use of this structure threat information expression as the format. But however, it achieves the automation, the protocol used for transferring of this information is actually done using what? The trusted automated exchange of intelligent information. So this is actually like I said here, like SROSS feed for threats consists of TASII server and client. So it's actually done the transport from the client to the server. That is from you setting up that automation to from the server to the client, from you setting up the automation to the server. Like the transport, the movement is done by the trusted automated exchange of the intelligence information. Yeah, please. So I think this is giving us an insight of the question. You don't just pick an answer immediately, just you need to kind of interpret the question, understand it, and then before you pick an answer actually. Yeah. So that takes us to the third question. And all these questions are very, very light. I will be honest with you. At the end of this, I'm going to share like a database of questions. Yeah. I kind of just picked these ones because these are just what we've done so far. We've only covered risk management, but we can even go a little bit further today on that. And I will share that, and I will expect you to try to test yourself at regular interval with that, be acquainted with those questions. And one good thing again, I will share two medium with you. One of the medium I will kind of pay more attention to it and probably refer you more to that because there's actually a chat group there where you see different views, you see different answers. So you need to actually have good understanding of what you've read or what is required because it's online as I say. So you see people with different understanding and different views. So yeah. So that takes us to the third question, which is actually you're reviewing a web server log after a web application security breach. To what type of security control do log review relate? So what they are trying to test here is your ability to understand the different type of security control we discussed, right? The different type of security control we discussed, and majority of the question are said actually they might not actually come and ask you to define this. No, they bring scenario based question and ask you to interpret it, just like what we have here now, um, telling you that you're actually reviewing a web server log. And after it's actually you are reviewing that after a web application security breach. That means there was a threat actor that actually attacked you. So, and you're now reviewing your log to see, okay, what happened? When did it happen? To get information. So they are asking you what type of the security control is this? That is what they are asking you. And we remembered going through different type of security control. Yeah, that was last class actually, not so far. So I think that should still be fresh in our memory. Security control. Yeah, the categories. Then these are the types, right? And even from this is even it's even giveaway from this. If you've revised this a little bit, you see the answer is kind of giveaway there, right? The answer is giveaway there is detective, and I believe we all know why it's detective, not just because we kind of see example of detective as being log analysis, but yes, we need to understand the. I remember explaining this very well, the physical, which I gave example, of course, with Mantrap, and I explain what it is actually just going to a bank and you enter and you make sure most times you enter kind of the entrance of the bank, you enter and the door would lock before the other one will open, kind of trapping you in between, right? That is what they call the access control visible. And so the detective, meaning it's a type of security control that helps you to identify an incident that has already occurred. Like you are trying to fish out what happened. When did this attack or the said bridge occur? So you need to understand those things and the corrective which we explain to ourselves as patching on known vulnerability. Like, of course, I explained here that you see something like Microsoft running out patch regularly. What they are trying basically trying to achieve is just to fix some correction to this. So this question here actually is just testing our knowledge of that. Do we understand those types of control? Do we know that, okay, if an attack occur and we are trying to go through the log, do we know that that is kind of detective? We are trying to play the detective role to see what happened, how it actually happened, when did it happen, right? Yeah. So that takes us to the fourth question, which is okay. This needs you actually to think technical as well. Needs you to think technical, but it's still light compared to the questions you're going to face. These are still light. So they said after analyzing the risks associated with working with an external organization, we did this last week actually, and I remember explaining this very well. After analyzing the risks associated with working with an external organization to fulfill a government contract, you decide to enter into a contractual agreement after applying security setting to the external organization. What type of risk treatment is this? What do you guys think? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section, the chat box, what you think. Ben, what do you think? Nicole, what do you think? Man, your answer is making me to laugh because you picked two answer. Nicole, any idea from you? Okay, Ben actually got one of it, but picking to answer it means you're wrong because you can't pick actually two. The answer is risk mitigation, right? So you've done the analysis of these guys and you've done the analysis associated with it, and you've taken a major. This is a major, like a major to set up this contractual agreement. Contractual agreement. I think we're going to say, yeah, I've already explained. I explained that already last week very well, where I remember giving us an example of going to swim, right? And I mentioned that you need to know that because these guys are going to test your ability of understanding what each entails. I gave an example of going to swim. You know, going to swim, there is a risk of you getting drowned, right? You know already. So by going, you already accepted the risks involved. then, but what measure can you take to prevent that? If you put on a life jacket and others, then you're already trying to mitigate the risks. You're taking measure to, but if you want to avoid it, it means you don't want to go at all. You don't want to swim at all. Then you're avoiding it. Then if you want to transfer the risks, as I said last week, you want to transfer the risks of getting drowned. You then want to go with a life guide, right? And say, hey, I'm paying you, in the case insurance, I'm paying you. I want to swim. I know I can get down, but I'm paying you this money. Your work is to be here as life guy for me, right? You're transferring the risks. So in this case, the answer is just only risk mitigation. So you need to think actually, and not just thinking, you need to understand them to actually do what we call elimination method, right? Because there are some answers that, just as Ben did, that was why I was laughing. There are some this thing that will be so close, and you'll be seeing like two answers, but then the two of them cannot be correct. You need to eliminate, then you hit the last answer. But most times you need to have been acquainted with some of the nature of the equations, because you don't have the whole of time, right? Think the exam is for 3 hours or thereabouts. So you really, and so many questions, you really want to utilize your time so you can finish up, and if time be, revise or go through some of the questions. That helps a lot. Yeah, so the answer to that is risk mitigation, because you've actually identified that there is risk and you're taking a measure already. In the case of swimming, you're putting on a life jacket to go and swim. Yeah, you are trying to put in a contractual agreement, right? Okay, so that takes us to the next question. I believe everyone should get this actually. Question 5. How is an asset single loss expectancy derived? We did this with some examples last week. How to calculate single loss expectancy, SLE. Let me know your answer in the comment section. Okay, flow out is actually right. So then you're not right. So to calculate your single loss expectancy, you need to first of all identify the value of the assets and the exposure. Then you picked actually the annual rate of currency and the exposure. No, the annual rate of currency, that does not give you the single loss expectancy. No. Um, and do we have that? Yeah, we actually have that here. Single loss expectancy, you multiply your asset value by your exposure factor, actually. Yeah. So you need to, and I made mention of this with some scenario. where I told you, yeah, you need this. Basically, it's categorized under the qualitative assessment. That, of course, before you start putting on security control, you need to understand what the cost is, and this is very difficult actually to do, because you don't want to put on security control. I gave an example of, for example, your assets cost $5,000, and you're implementing a security control that costs $6,000. That is not reasonable, right? So you want to before implementing security control, you want to know what the budget is, what it will cost you, so you know if it actually makes sense for you to go on with that or not, right? If the risks involved, the security control will cost me $500, and my asset actually cost 5,000, I can consider that, right? But not having my security control more expensive than the asset I'm protecting, right? So we need to understand this, please. That takes us to the next question, question 6, which is, how is the annual loss expectancy calculated? And then I think this was what you were thinking of in that you answered. Annual loss now, not the single loss expectancy, the annual loss. To know the total loss for the whole year, not for just single incident. Of course, you first of all get the single incident, then that now helps you determine with the number of occurrence, that helps you determine the total loss. So what do we think is the answer? Let me not say so much about that. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Very good. Very good. Yeah, so you need to establish the single loss expectancy, then multiply with the annual rate of occurrence. That gives you your annual loss expectancy. Very good, correct. Nice job. Okay, so let's progress to question 7. Which type of risk assessment is based on subjective opinion regarding threat likelihood and the threat impact severity? I believe we should all get this as well. The type of risk assessment that is based on subjective opinion regarding threat likelihood and the threat impact severity. What do you guys think? Nicolo, are you still with us? Nope. Hope he's like he's having network challenge. He's just connecting and leave, join, leave, join. So Ben, what do you think about that? Yeah, Ugo actually took permission from me. He had emergency to attend to. Ben, okay, so we'll move on. Flow out is actually correct with that. Oh, very good, very good, very good, Ben. Correct, correct. Qualitative. Qualitative deals with your, it doesn't deals with number. It's subjective, it's personal, right? Yeah. Very good. Okay. The next question, question 8. Your company is hiring new employee. Okay, that may come into contact with. Okay, I think we've not touched this. It's part of the things we're going to consider today. But however, let me just test to see if some of these questions as well, right? It will be hard because you might not you've not even known the terminologies at all. I will skip this for now. These are one of the questions I was expecting you guys to all not get actually at this point. I'll skip that. Then I will go to the next one. Okay, this is a very technical one. I find it very interesting actually. Yeah, question 9. At a press conference, a government official announced a new government policy related to a controversial social issue. Please read the question carefully, understand it. At a press conference, a government official announced a new government policy related to a controversial social issue. This typical question you see in exam. So attackers from around the world whose view differs from the government render government websites unreachable due to a DDoS attack. Remember me explaining what DDoS means, right? So now they are putting this into play. DDoS, which we explained to ourselves to be distributed denying of service, right? Okay. So now this question to explain more is actually saying a government actually brought out new policy on a related controversial social issue, but attackers all over the world they do not agree to this, and so they actually rendered the website unreachable. So what's the question now is what type of threat actor is characterized in this scenario? It goes back to the threat actor question related as well. So what do you think in this case now? Let me know. Oh, good. Ben, you got question 8. That is good. I'm so impressed. Question 9. Um, question 9. However, okay, you did not get question 9. Good. Flow out, correct. Question 9 is activists. Activists actually basically most times they're actually having an opinion which they are in support on or they want the public to know about. So they have the knowledge, unlike the first scenario we consider, which is script kiddo. They don't have the knowledge. They have the knowledge and they want to use their knowledge to make their own view known, right? And yeah, criminal syndicates which you picked, then it's kind of course, performing underground shady days, but it's not more like wanting your view to be known, just as the case, the question painted, like a social issue. They want their case to be known, right? Criminal syndicate is using some technical this thing underground to perform your this thing. But then this actually pointed to thing to give up the answer, a social issue and DDoS, right? So the answer is actually activist. Yeah. Ben, I'm so impressed with that number 8 you provided answer for. Even if we've not covered it, it's part of the thing we're going to touch today. Yeah, that is nice. Okay, so the next question here is question 10, which is which of the following tools is effective in preventing a user from accessing unauthorized removable media? What do we think? Which of the following tools is effective in preventing a user from accessing unauthorized removable media? It just has an hint as well for some of these questions. Sometimes they just provide answers, options that are not even related to what the question is saying. So if you can just even sometimes try to channel the question to what options in these questions actually relates to what this question is saying. Actually, it helps. It's just is a fast means of elimination, right? It's a fast means of elimination, actually. So you already provided. Yeah, good. Everyone actually got that USB data blocker. Yeah, good. And the last question, which is which of the following describe a social engineering techniques that seek to exploit a person's sense of urgency? We explained this with the spoofing, right? We explained this with spoofing. So what is the answer? What do you think? Lowell, you already failed that. Yeah, so on this, it's actually the last one. It's actually, yeah, A. Yeah, correct. Um, yeah, a phishing email. Yeah, so yeah, so that brings us to the end of this. Actually, so what I wanted to achieve from this is two things to help you basically from this question number 9. You're going to see a scenario based question more in the answer in the what's it called in the test. Actually, you'll see more of scenario based questions like this. What they will be testing is your understanding of, okay, they don't want you to start defining this for them. No, they're asking you to define script schedule, no, or asking you to define state sponsor, no. Your understanding of those terminology, do you understand what it means? Yes. Can I apply this to scenario? When there is this scenario, can you tell me which of this is actually being played here? So that is the nature of the question. And yeah, I believe this has actually helped us, giving us insight. And maybe by the end of this today class, I'm going to, as I said, I will share two other links where you see people kind of commenting, okay, I think this because of this. So it helps sometimes, okay, but then it helps and it does not help. It helps in the case if you are there are some questions that are very confusing and you just need to chat with people. It's more like a group of chatting as well, where you not chatting to say, you just read people's view of it and yeah, kind of chatting, and you kind of, okay, interpret with your own understanding. But then you need to have an understanding of it to go down there as well, right? So I would I would just switch over to material. Yeah, for us to quickly run through this off. We're basically done with this. Um, yeah, yeah. So last week I was able to touch all these, and yeah, I was able to touch this data privacy standard. Yeah, I was able to touch this last week. I was able to touch this as well. The classification to, yeah, I was able to discuss data role and responsibility. And I remember emphasizing on this that you need to know the difference between owner and custodian. You'll be asked, definitely. You'll be tested on that. So, okay. Okay. So today we'll continue with the episode of security and information lifecycle. So we can run through this completely. The next chapter, I will be sharing the material as well, maybe at the end of this class. It's a little bit complicated just to make up your mind around that. We are just kind of, we are still on our enjoyment part actually. As we go on, it becomes much difficult, but nevertheless, don't mind the word difficult. It becomes more challenging, of course, but then you just need to have a good understanding of this risk management because every other thing is built on risk management. At some point, we'll go more practical. Yeah, I will try to deviate a little bit from the course schedule and just teach you some practical things. I would want you guys to practically set up a server, practically set up a client. So when you see one of the questions talking about client and server, if you've practically done that, it's going to help you comprehend that very well. There was a question talking on threat intelligence sourcing, talking about server and client, like which of the distinct transports the protocol. Yeah, if you're just hearing that, yeah, you have understanding, but I think I will want us to do that a little bit, just build a little interface, a little virtual world where we'll have maybe a Microsoft Windows 10 server client and a server. I will share those software with us. We'll set that up. If not this class, maybe in our next class, we'll just divert a little bit. Yeah, and just do that just to soil our hand a little bit and help us be a well-rounded tech person. So you have little bit knowledge of that. I would little bit as well incubate Active Directory, though I know it's not covered here, but then having an understanding of that helps a little. I won't go into detail of that because it's a very big part on its own. Yeah, but I will just little bit chip on that. But nevertheless, our next chapter on this will be on cryptology. So we'll be talking about how to secure. So how to secure basically, yeah, security of our data, our information, what are the means which we're going to do. But nevertheless, what we get that we're going to address that. It's a little bit challenging. Is one part of the IT security part most people want to shy away from. They don't want to actually deal with it. Yeah, but we're going to introduce that to ourselves and I will explain that as much as I can. Yeah, and another thing I would want from us is to always try to go through whatever we do in the class. And if you can, even read ahead. It might not make much sense to you in the sense that you might not understand them very well. But if you've done that, when I'm saying or when I'm speaking on it, it becomes much easy for you to comprehend. And mostly I'll be giving, of course, I've been doing that. I'll be giving scenario each and everything I we go through. I'm going to give you scenario about it, like say some things that would easily relate with you. So if you've read them before, it becomes much easier for you to assimilate and it stick more to you, right? Because you need to understand, as we've seen so far from the questions which we've gone through today, you need to understand these concepts to be able to think around those scenario and get your answer. Because if you don't understand the concept, it becomes difficult for you to think around this scenario, right? When you are now needed to go through a scenario and then tag that scenario to a particular concept, if you don't understand the concept, it's as good as you already failing the question from the onset. Yeah. Yeah, so part of what we did last week, just a quick review, we discussed about risk assessment, right? Yeah, and we told ourselves you cannot talk about risk mitigation if you cannot assess risks. If you cannot identify those risks, prioritize them. Like know where they are applicable, know where your infrastructure critical your critical infrastructure are positioned or are located. Then you cannot talk about assessing it, which we as well told ourselves what assessing it entails priority of the threat against access and determining what to do about it, applicable to the entire organization. Yeah, the assessments most times is applicable to the entire organization, but then there are some cases where you do that on departmental level, not just on departmental level or product level, not always on the whole assessment. Yeah, and the targets, we talked about that, where we talked about server agency system and others. And we went on to talk about the risk assessment process, right? Where we discuss the security awareness, evaluate security control. Yeah, that's what actually led us to the security control, which we talked about. We discussed about the category of the security control. We talked about the technical, the managerial, and the administrative. We talked about the types of the security control, right? Which we discussed about the deterrent, the corrective, and others. And yeah, we as well considered risk treatment, right? Where we told ourselves, okay, we've been able to talk about this assessment, we've talked about risks and all, but what do we do with them? We need to treat them, right? Yeah. So and yeah. So today we'll be going straight to.
Sorry, your screen is not moving. Is it supposed to move? I'm not sure.
Sorry, say that again.
I say your screen is not moving. Like, I don't know if you were showing us things before.
Yeah, I was just going through a run through of what we did last week. Yeah, my screen, yeah, is not moving actually. I was just going through that. Just as a refresher, actually. I was not moving my screen. Yeah, so we'll be continuing from here today, which is the security and the information life cycle. The objective of this is to explain privacy and sensitive data concepts in relation to security. Yeah. Yeah, so to start with this, I want to make a very important listing here. So security, if you observe, we've been talking about different listing, right? So security in general, it's not isolated. What do I mean? You cannot start building a system or a product and you say, okay, I'm building this product now, then when I'm done I'll start talking about the security. No, that is the beginning of the failure of that product. So every step of a particular product, as the case may be, or a system or an infrastructure, you want to consider how securely can I build this, how securely can I make this be, right? So it's very, very crucial for every phase of a project. So, like having this now, security and information lifecycle, information lifecycle in general, it's it's just telling you like the process of achieving whatever you want to do, life cycle in general. But then our interest is not in general. We are interested in information life cycle. How is information being collected? How is being stored? How is being processed? How is being shared? How is being either archived or deleted? This is the actually the life. These are the life cycle of information. And for this life cycle of this information, we need to be security conscious at every point of it, from the initial stage of collecting the information. We remember vividly where we discussed the PCI DSS, the payment industrial standard data security, right? Where we stated different things about, yeah, the user needs to be informed of this, the user needs to they need to comply with this. Yeah, those are the information this thing which you need to place, which you need to take in place for any organization that is dealing with card um that is dealing with users card information, right? Which we classified as the PII, right? the personal identifiable information. So I'm just trying to emphasize that you cannot build a system or you cannot go through any of this thing and placing its security maybe at the end parts. Oh, before now, people used to make that mistake. They will build their system. When they are now done, they will now start considering the security. Most times you get it wrong with that. So security needs to come in place at every um, cycle of your information. Yeah. Information life cycle. Security involved at every phase. Yeah, I've explained that. Data collection. Yeah, from the data collection, yeah, you need to have consents like who are you getting this data from? Are they well informed? Do they have any consent form they need to sign? Yes. To give you the right to use their information or to do whatever you are doing with those information, right? Yeah, implementation depends on regulation and standard. That is what I mentioned, right? The PCI DSS in this case, and for European Union, the GDPR, right? So you need to understand, and over time, you observe we've mentioned some of these regulations, and we've paid attention to just few. Yeah, there are so many others, but these are the most regular, common ones. So you need to just understand them and know how they works, and know that at every point you need actually to implement your infrastructure or your structure depending on this regulation and standard. You don't just work on the way you think or the way you feel. No, you might end yourself incurring fines and some other things which you don't want actually for your organization. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this is the information life cycle actually. The collection, which is the first point of contact. Yeah, the user actually have a consent from them giving you consent to go on. You collect at collection, what are the security measures in place depending on the organization or the industry which I'm actually operating on. How do I store this information? What are the regulation guiding my storing the information? Do I store information for 3 months? Depending. I made when we discussed the PCI DSS, right? I made emphasis of some companies, they don't need to store your card details. They only need to process with it. So these things should be stated on the consent form. If you've given them concepts not to store your card detail and they store it, you can decide to file them, right? So companies are aware of this and should work with it, right? So if you're giving them access in your consent form that okay, they can have your information for 1 month, good. So they have the ability or the right to work with regulation and store your data for 1 month, right? The processing of the information, the sharing of it, the delete or archive of it. This all relies on regulation. Yeah, some companies might hold your information, as I said, for up to a month, some for just a day, some for a year, depending on the agreement and the concept which you've granted them actually to work with. Yeah, so in general, when we're talking about protecting sensitive data, we are talking about your personal identifiable information. Yeah, it's rated so much about your personal identifiable information, which is one or more piece of sensitive information that can be tracked back to an individual, that can be tracked back to you, your PII, your personal identifying information. And we've discussed this actually before now. We gave ourselves series of information about the personal identifiable information, which is the social insurance number, the email address, the credit card. I know I've discussed this severally before now. Yeah, so these are all vital, and whenever we are talking about protecting the sensitive, this is what you're actually referring to. Okay. Yeah, so I found this interesting. So you just know, right? Yeah, that they can actually keep a track of you from your browser, what you do and what you access. So most times you want to be much sensitive if you are using public system, right? And the kind of information you provide on a section because it can be tracked back to you. Yeah. can actually be tracked back to you. So if you're using public system, for me personally, there are some information I don't key in if I'm a public system, and if there is need for me to do that, I want to make sure that I clear all the browser cookies, the cache after using that system, right? Just to keep yourself secured, because you don't know who is going to access that system when you leave, right? And the person might have some technical knowledge or some, yeah, to be able to fetch out this from the previous section and others and be able to track or get some sensitive information about you, which you don't really want, right? Yeah. Another sensitive information um is the protected health information. Yeah, the PHI. One or more piece of sensitive medical information that can be tracked back to an individual. And these are the kind of information that health information that can be tracked by your health insurance planning number. Yeah, basically everyone have that. Your blood types, it's arguable, but then with some more research, it can be tracked back, right? Why I said it's arguable because some people will say, your blood type, everybody have different type blood type, right? Some people might have what is it called? DSM or similar blood type. But then with these and some other information, they can actually track that back to you. Yeah. The patient medical, I mean, yeah, those things are all personal. So can be tracked back. Yeah, there are a number of technologies that can be used to ensure data privacy. And one of them is one of these technology that can be used for privacy enhancing technology. Yeah, one of them is I think for this security plus, we're going to pay emphasis on just this abnormalization. It's actually, we're going to explain it, but there are some others actually that can be used. Probably when we get to cryptography, I'm going to see if they actually have any. But for, yeah, I'm just running through this and I can figure out that they actually only touch to emphasize or pay more emphasis on anonymization. Yeah, from the name actually, anonymous, right? Yeah, so it actually gives you a general idea of what it is actually trying to, from English word, actually from the English word, if they say someone is anonymous, they normally use that, right? Basically, if you don't want to know, the person doesn't want you to know who is actually doing that. Yeah, so it coils down to this actually. Yeah, it coils down to this actually, anonymization actually. So the GDPR as well, we are actually calling back again to this. Allow this. This is quite interesting and a little bit confusing, but I'm going to throw more light on it so it doesn't confuse us much, right? The GDPR actually have explained that to be for European Union. And why we consider the GDPR, I kind of emphasize on that it needs you, even in this last security information flow we discussed. Remember at point of collection, I made mention of, yes, there should be consents, that you must provide consents. Yeah, that is one of the things we should have here for data collection, consent. But yeah, now they are now creating means of privacy enhancing technology, and they are telling you, and they are providing us here with saying the GDPR actually allows anonymization of data connection and use without users' consent. It's a little bit contradicting, right? Yeah, but yeah, if you are using the GDPR with anonymization, yes, it allows for that. But if you are not anonymizing that, then it does not allow for you to get the user information without the user consent. So there are two different things. The normal standard GDPR, yeah, for EU citizen, yes, you must get consent for anything you want to do. But if you are using that under the privacy enhancing technology of anonymization, then you can go on without getting the user's consent, but then it will not be able to identify any user. It's more like you just getting a random sample of data that you can't fetch that, you can't draw that, there is no track, you can't link that to any user, right? Yeah. Yeah, so it goes on to tell us that anonymized data has limited market value. Yeah, because you're just taking random sample of data. There are no personal identifiable information there to link. So of course the value would not be, just for example, if as a bad guy I'm able to track a system and what I'm getting is only I'm not getting any personal identifiable information. I'm getting just anonymized information that are just random. Then if I want to sell it and I'm telling someone that, hey, this information are actually real live users, but the person will simply tell me that, hey, yeah, I know, but they are normalized, so I can't even identify this or track this to anyone. So then the value of that, it's not going to be so high than if I'm sharing information that contain personal identifiable information. I'm telling you, hey, I've been able to bridge through MTN database, for example, for those in Nigeria, and these are the users' information with the identifiable, personal identifiable information tracked. People will pay more for such information because I can tell, okay, for myself, for Chinedu, this is where I live, this is my information, this. Unlike I'm just telling you a particular user, I don't know who the person is. He lives here, he does this. Like you won't want to pay much for such information, right? Yeah. So we have some techniques, organization techniques. How do we achieve that actually? How do we make some information to hide this personal identifiable information? One of them is what we call the pseudo anonymization. Actually replace the PII, which is the personal information, with fake identity or fake identifier. Yeah, you intentionally did this actually. Yeah, with the pseudo anonymization, you replace the PII with fake identifier intentionally. So you hide the PII, the personal identifiable information. And another method which we achieve that is through the data minimization. Yeah, limits, store, retain sensitive data. Yeah, a good example here as well is the PCI DSS. You limit the ability to retain sensitive data. Yeah, if I don't need to store your card details, then I just process whatever you want to do. Is it purchase or whatever? I just process that, but I really do not need to store it. Yeah, I just have to process it, get the information, process it. Then the next one, which we have there, is tokenization. Tokenization is like, I'm sure some of you we are used to this, right? For example, if you're doing some transaction in the bank, and we have actually before that we have soft and hard token. Majority of you will be used to the hard token, and you have something like a token. You press and it generates pin for you, and you type in the pin and it gets it processed. And this actually works between systems that are already linked. So token is like creating a pin or a number, most times 6, 8, as the case may be, that is more like your identity. Those pin are tagged, the token is tagged to your accounts. If you're processing, of course, if you're processing in a bank transaction and you put in the go, so it's more like putting your password, as the case may be, or your multi-factor authenticator, but this time it has been anonymized, like it has been changed to random pin, to random code, right? So you are not having a fix. So each time you press if it's hardware token, each time you press it, it generates a different set of pin, a different set of numbers, right? So that with that, you can't even track that to anybody. There is no way you can pin that to. If I'm seeing a random code, like it means nothing to me literally, but to you, having that application linked to that, you understand that this is your pin and you put it and it makes sense. It's authorized that. Yeah, a digital token authorized access instead of the original credential. Instead of you putting your my name, my this, I just provide that pin and it's get authorized. Yeah. So the next one which we have there is the data maxing. Just as the name implied, maxing like hiding something. Right? If I say maxing, I'm maxing this, I'm hiding it. That is what it means in general. Hide sensitive data from unauthorized user, maxed out credit card. Yeah, a good example of this, which yeah, and just to pay more attention on this, please, you might be text on the exam, you might see question actually testing your ability on some of these concepts, most especially this data maxing. You see a good example of data maxing, you I don't know if Facebook does that. Yeah, Facebook does that. You type in your username and you want to type in your password. You see, when you type in the first letter, after some second, it turns to hash. Maybe you type CH, C, once you type C, you type H, C is already turned to H is you just type in and the thing is turning them to H. So someone by your side that is not paying attention to your screen and looking instantly would not see what you are typing, even if you are maybe in an open space, right? So it's more like a security measure as well to anonymize data, like you're maxing it immediately, right? Yeah. And another means as well, you see some of all these applications, like you put in your card details and they just max it, and you can only see the last four digits of your card. Other number you cannot see. Yeah, it's a means of actually, yeah, enhancing what is it called? Technology for enhancing privacy, right? Yeah. Please, we need to note that. We need to note basically the difference between data maxing and tokenization. Yeah, so the next thing which we have here is data sovereignty. Yeah, what is data sovereignty all about? It's all about knowing your location of data and the law that applies to it. I I literally explained this at the beginning of our class as well. I explained this using the GDPR actually, and I said, yeah, GDPR. I mentioned there are some laws that apply globally and some applied providentially. Yeah, so you want to know at every point. I remember saying that where your information or your data are being located or stored, because the providential law of where your data is stored might be applied to your data. So if I really don't want some providential law that are applicable in the US to pass through my data. Like, for example, in the US laws, right, there are so many of them. Any information stored in US, they are easily accessed by the government and others. If I don't really want that, then I don't want my data to be stored there, right? I want to store my data in a different location, right? So for example, the GDPR, I said is actually not providential, it's a general law for all EU citizens, right? So irrespective of where the data is or others, as long as it's EU citizen, GDPR actually applies. So the location of data and the law that applies to it, that is data sovereignty. And where the data originates from, where does the data reside, which law or regulation applies to it. These are all, yeah, they are all very, very important and necessary for you to know. Yeah, a quick review on this. We've touched the information lifecycle, including data collection, storage, processing, sharing, and archiving. Then deletion. This is basically the run through of the data lifecycle. And the basic importance of this or the reiteration of this is that yes, security is not done by the site. Security is done throughout this life cycle. At the point of data collection, you need to immediately start thinking about the security of your information, even down to the storage. How is it being stored? Is it stored on a weekly basis, on a daily basis? Of course, if you don't store information, the more you store information, the more risk exposure factor you are creating. Because if information is not stored, even if bad guys should break in, they're not going to see any information. So if you want to store information of any kind of user, mostly if it is PII, personal identifiable information, then you need to work with the regulation and the guidance so as to know where and how to do that, right? During the processing of information. Of course, we all know information at rest, at motion, they all need to be protected. And that is what takes us to our next chapter, actually, the cryptography, right? Telling you how to protect information when it's being stored, when it's as motion, and when it is being utilized. Yeah, the sharing of information on the archive. And then we as well talked about the sensitive data. Sensitive data can be anonymized through, yeah, pseudo anonymization, data minimization, data maxing, and tokenization. We talked about data sovereignty, determining where your data is stored so as to help you understand which of these laws are being applicable to your data. And yeah, so that takes us to a very, very important information or topic, which is data destruction. Explain the importance of physical security control. That is the objective of this, actually. Just to run through of this, data destruction, we've been talking about information and others and others and others, how to utilize to safeguard data. Most times, most people forget to talk about this, and it's very crucial. Why do I say it's very crucial? Because you see someone, for example, just something around us. You've gotten a phone, and after 1 year you decide to get another one, and you want to give out the old phone, and you don't take proper measure of taking off the information there, and you pass it out. You might end up putting yourself at risk, right? So actually this applies to our information as well. So there should be stated rules and guidance on how to um, destroy information, right? You see some people, they use their system and maybe it goes bad, and they just take it to repair, and all of a sudden they will just decide to leave it there and not even work on it, and just decide to buy another one without taking proper measure. If someone, maybe your competitor, for example, should have access to that system, even though you think it's bad, I will explain something here at some point to make you know that even while a system is bad, or even while you delete a system, if that system gets into the hand of bad guys, they can still regenerate the information that was deleted. So let me quickly explain that how it works. So when you delete information, even on your system, on your computer system, if I press Shift Delete to permanent delete it, I have not completely erased it from that my memory. What I have done, yes, have deleted it, but the bits, I don't know. Let me quickly revise this. We all know that our computer system works in bits, zeros and one. Yes, we actually don't type when we are dealing with interfacing with the computer. You see, if I want to search something online now, I don't go and be typing 011 311. No, I don't type 0011. No, I write something readable. That is actually known as what? Like, that is actually not understand by our computer. We have some software which we refer to as the programming language that helps to interpret, change those things to zeros and one for the computer, because the computer only understands zeros and one, right? So whenever we delete, back to what we are saying, whenever I delete things in the computer, the zeros and one that actually makes up that thing I've deleted, it still exists in the memory, even while I've deleted it, and I cannot see it again, or I cannot get it. But if someone that is well technically equipped have access to that memory, the person will be able to generate those from those zeros and one. The person will be able to generate those things you've deleted, or those things you think you've deleted, because they are still in the memory. So for you to actually completely do that, there are some software you use and actually some method you use to overwrite those zeros and one, because those zeros and one are already there. So what you can do to completely take it off is to actually override that. But you can't do that with your normal system. You need a special software, wiping tool software, to actually achieve that. Yeah, so to destroy data, let's come back to this data destruction. We we have paper, file, magnetic tape, and others. We have the burning, we have the shredding, how to destroy paper and related magnetic tape. Of course, we know what shredding is. We have shredding machines in the bank. You have paper containing sensitive data, most especially personal identifiable information. You don't want to disguise it just like that. That was 2 days ago. There was this lady, a Nigerian lady, lamenting that she figured out someone reached out to her and saying that they used her personal info, what is it called, immigration paper, the file or so she used to apply for immigration to sell is it akara or so for her, and she was talking about seeing them. Yes, if it's a country that is working, it will work, but I don't know if that will work in Nigeria. So you don't want to just disguise people's information or paper containing information just anyhow. You want to either burn them so you'll be sure, right? Or you shred them. Of course, you will not want to, in an enterprise environment, you will not start setting on fire to burn. You shred using shredding machine, right? Yeah, so that actually takes us to digital data destruction. Of course, yeah, we've actually discussed data destruction for physical and others for paper, and then what about the digital information? How do we destroy them? How do we make sure? Mostly, as I've said, for computer systems. So, failed or decommissioned storage device end of life service. What does that mean? Yeah, digital data destruction. There are some devices that are, yeah, storage device to be precise. We have many of them, right? We have hard disks, we have a flash drive can as well serve as your storage device. Maybe they are failed or they are decommissioned. Decommission means they are no longer being used. So how do you actually destroy them? Yeah, because you won't just want to drop them, as I've explained to you, that even if you think you've deleted the information in them, if they get into the hand of bad guy, those information can be regenerated using these strings of zeros and one that actually exist there. So you want to take some measures actually to get this off, right? You want to take some measure to actually get this completely destroyed, right? And storage device end of life policy: reuse, donate, destroy, update assets. Those are all examples of that. Yeah. And so that takes us to what we have next here, which is the digital media sanitization. Mm. Digital media sanitization. Data is still recoverable. Deleted, oh, I think I've even explained this up there. Deleted data, repartition or reformatted drive, data is still recoverable. That was what I said, right? You how do you want to actually sanitize your data very well so you'll be sure that even while you delete, because like I said, even while you delete data, they can still be recovered, or you partition or you reformat your drive. They can still be recovered if they get into the hands of bad guys. So you want to actually use some disk swiping techniques, right? That was what I said. You want to use some disk swiping techniques for SSD and HD. SSD and HD, they are just type of hard drive actually. So you want to plug them and erase them using a dedicated software known as disk swiping. And what this software done was what I explained. That it basically goes down to those zeros and one that forms or makes up your data which you've deleted or you think you've deleted, and kind of kind of double clad them, kind of like fill those ones, and in most cases, depending on the software, some just kind of load them with another zeros and one that does not mix up any meaningful information, or it's just kind of destroy that. We're going to see that. I don't know if they consider that as a method of data sanitization. It's a means of encrypting data. Encryption actually is one means of data sanitization. Like when you encrypt data, you actually need a key to decrypt it. So if you encrypt data and destroy the key, is a means of data medians and digital median sanitization. Because let me see if they actually considered any of that here. Yeah, I think they mentioned that cryptography, which is more like encryption. Yeah, cryptography and region. Destroy storage medium decryption key. That was what I just explained now. You encrypt the data, and of course, when you're encrypting the data, it provides you with a means of a key for decrypting it. But then you just destroy the storage medium decryption key. You intentionally do that just as a means of making that data inaccessible. So even if it's an hard drive and it gets to the hand of any other person, the person can't decrypt it because the person is not having the decryption key. So that medium becomes inaccessible. Self-encrypting device. Yeah. Okay. So this is just a quick review of what we've considered: data sanitization, ensuring sensitive data cannot be recovered. Yeah, most especially PII, personal identifiable information, ensuring that they cannot be recovered from destroyed device, or as the case may be. Organization policy define how physical and digital data is safely destroyed. Yeah, you don't do these things yourself. You work with the organization policy. Every organization has his or her own policy governing how these things are being done. So you need to work with that at every point. Data sanitization method includes burning, shredding. Yeah, data sanitization method includes burning for paper, right? You can burn, you can shred. Cryptography and erasure. Cryptography and erasure just simply means encrypting it and destroying the decryption key, so no one can access it, even if they have physical access of the storage device. They can't access that because they don't have the decryption key to actually decrypt the information. Then disk swiping, yeah. Okay. So that takes us to our next episode, which is 1.13, right? And it's personnel risks and policy. Personnel risks and policies. So we've literally covered everything about risks, but one key important thing we've not considered, which is even with the recent majority of the recent breach around the North American here, it's tied to this. It's tied to this personnel risks and policy. So personnel risks and policy is all about the persons actually involved in this infrastructure. Yeah, you might feel that you have actually secured your infrastructure, but if you've not considered the persons involved, who are the people using this? Are they technically inclined? What are their level of technicality? How are they being segmented? If you've not considered that, then your infrastructure as well is still prone to some vulnerability from the personnel involved. And so majority of the recent crime as well, they are linked to personnel actually, not even the infrastructure. You're taking good measure of protecting your infrastructure, but the personnel involved actually give away those infrastructure. So the objective of this is to explain the importance of policy to organizational security. Yeah. So the personnel management policy actually, we have the first one which we have there is the standard operating procedure. You want to actually note this because you hear this often, even after the conference of this security plus exam. You hear this SOP. They just call it SOP. No one will tell you the full meaning. You just hear people talking SOP, SOP, SOP. Have you developed the SOP? Have you prepared the SOP? Yeah, SOP is just standard operating procedure, which is they have example here. They say proper step for sending sensitive data via email. Yeah. So basically, in general, what SOP actually means is just like the procedure for doing things at every point in an organization. So if in an organization I have um of course, all organizations have mailing method, right? They have most organizations they have their domain being managed by Microsoft 365 and Active Directory and the rest of them. So there are some there are some procedure for sending out sensitive information. For example, um, I might decide that managerial position should, of course, they are sending sensitive information. So for every mail which they send, they need a token. We've discussed what token is, right? I might just decide based on my policy, I might decide that they need a token to send out any sensitive information which they need. So I would actually have this documented and of course, shared. You don't set standard operating procedure and just document it and leave it and share with the people the managerial position involved. So they all know that yes, for every sensitive this, they need to go through this. So if any one of them is not doing that, then that person is breaching the company policy or the company rules, as the case may be. So there are always standard operating procedure for every business, most likely in most cases for every department as well, right? So the next personnel, and this actually keeps of course, the basic aim of this is what I've explained initially, which is the personnel risks, right? Considering the risks involved in it, this actually keep them in check. So they don't have different people doing things just like the qualitative view with their own understanding or their own subjective mindset. No, if you want to send sensitive data, then you must do this. You must provide token. There is a standard for doing this and giving more like a reference point for all users to comply with, all managerial users in this case, right? I gave an example of using the managerial users that, yeah, they are the only one allowed to send sensitive information via mail. And so if they must send this, they must provide token to complete that. Yeah. So the next one which we have here is the mandatory vacation or job rotation. This is very, very effective actually. I actually have a first-hand experience of this working in Amazon. They are very good with this, with mandatory leave and job rotation. They did something which within my first 6 months, I just observed that all the managers was changed. And I was like, what is happening? They were changed, but they were not, of course, they were still within the building and others, but they were just changed. And for example, the person in charge of IT rigs was now the one in charge of um, penetration testing, and the person in charge of penetration testing is now the charge of cyber security. The one in cyber security is now in charge of GRC. They just rotate it. So what do you achieve with that actually? You achieve so many things actually. Okay, they have one here which is detection of irregularity. Yeah, of course, yeah, if someone is in a position which ties to as well the personal risk, if someone is in a position for a long time, there might be some practice which the person is doing which are not ethical, right? So, but if the person continue to remain in that position, just him or her alone, then that might not be identified. But if we have standard this thing, just like Amazon, every 6 months you change, then the next person, there is tendency of that person dictating that irregularity or that practice which the previous manager is actually implementing that is not in line with the standard operating policy or the standard operating procedure, right? So, and in most cases, force people to go on mandatory vacation. Yeah, because if they not go on mandatory vacation, someone else would not come to take that to overshadow that, right? And see some things. That aside, if yeah, yeah, that aside, it actually has some extra things, but let's just confine to the scope of this security clause. I wanted to go more further, but no need on that actually. Yeah. Yeah. So the next one which we have is the separation of duty, multi-person control. Yeah, it reduces likelihood of internal fraud. To quickly explain this, what they mean by the separation of duty, and in brackets, you see them put multi-person control. It simply means in a typical environment, take for example, for a company that gives out loan. They gives out loan. They will have people they call the risk analysts. They will have risk analyst level one, risk analyst level two, risk analyst level three. So basically, what these people do is basically risk analyst level one will be the one to reach out to you. They will check, okay, confirm you want to get this amount of loan from us, and you say you work in this company. Yeah, send us these details. They will require some details. Send us an information with your email address, company email address, official email. So after that, it goes to the second level that reviews those things level one risk analysts have done, and then add some other requirements which they need in their own level. Then after that, it goes to the third person before it's finally approved. So it's not just one person doing all the three approvals. So that is what they refer to as separation of duty, multi-person control. With this, it's more like you are controlling. It does not take away the risks of fraud happening actually, but then consider that the fraud is going through different level, through different control. In this case, which I gave, risk analyst one, risk analyst two, risk analyst. So the tendency of that occurring is reduced to the barest minimum, right? And with that, you can keep an hold of the whole process more firmly. And yeah, of course, there have been incidents in the past where the whole three level or even four level we all agreed and commit fraud. But in most cases, it's nil because one person, maybe the level three person, will be um, a top management. How do you want to convince the top management to get involved in your fraud, which you want to do? So that is a means actually of personnel risks of managing personnel risks is one of them actually. Yeah. Yeah, they mentioned it does not prevent collusion actually. It does not prevent fraud actually, but it reduces that. Yeah, it reduces the tendency of that actually happening. Yeah. Yeah, for this, please, you need to pay attention. Basically, as I emphasize, you need to know this SOP. You outside the conference of this security plus, you hear SOP more. You hear that more. So you need to understand what it means. And yeah, the next thing we should have here is employee or contractor hiring. Employee or contractor hiring. And we have the social media analyst. So employee and contractor hiring is as well part of the personnel risks and policy assessment. And we have here the social media analysis. Yeah, you figure out, you might not know, right? You might not know, but take it from me that some jobs title and job role, before they give you offer, they actually do little bit analysis about you. They go to your various, you see some roles, you're applying for some roles, and they're asking you to provide your LinkedIn, provide your Facebook, provide your this account. They go through those things. They want to see the kind of posts you are associated with. What are the kind of comments do you make online? So sometimes you need to pay attention to that. So that is why you see some people they want to make some funny or nasty comment. They create a different accounts that are not their official accounts. They understand the this thing involved in that. That yes, some of these recruiters, some of these employers, they go as far as that. Of course, employers want the best personnel, right? They don't want someone that will expose them to risks. They don't want someone that have had some negative um influence or negative view in social media. They don't want to give someone like that, someone that will drag them out in the world. Yeah, they don't want that. So they do all this research to minimize the risks of their personnel. They randomly search for you on web as well to see what is the web actually saying, the search engine is saying about this person. They go further as well to do some background check, criminal record. Yeah, they will tell you majority of the job will tell you if you're getting this role, are you open for criminal record screening? Yeah, do you have you partaken maybe unpaid fine? They will check your credit record as the case may be, and even interview friends and colleagues about you just to be sure that you are actually risk free or reduce risk free. Yeah, user onboarding. User onboarding is one of them, and this is where the non-disclosure agreement comes in. So I was very happy when Ben was able to pick that because I know I've not discussed that. In one of the questions, I think question number 8, it tests your ability of understanding this. So you see, you need to actually have understanding of these things. You need to understand what it means. And non-disclosure agreement basically called most times you just hear them say NDA, right? But the full meaning is non-disclosure agreement. Non-disclosure agreement simply means it's done during user onboarding, right? Most especially if you are being employed in a sensitive role where you're going to see some critical infrastructure, they will make you sign this even before starting anything with you, that you are not going to discuss or have any conversation about any critical infrastructure or any information you get from this role, right? Any secrets, for instance, people working in I mentioned Coca-Cola the last time. Yeah, they always have competitor with Pepsi and others and other cola products, right? And so majority of the people working under it, they have signed this non-disclosure agreement. So if they should do that, they understand the consequence, so they would not want to do that, right? So it's like just as that question implied, it's just trying to test you or which let me quickly refer back to that question. I mean, I think that is question number 8, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. You said your company is hiring new employee that may come into contact with sensitive data during the course of their job. The emphasis sensitive data. Which type of document is normally signed by employee during the user onboarding process to ensure that they will not disclose sensitive data? That is what we are considering here now. You see, during the user onboarding, and they are going to come across sensitive data. So, which type of disclosure? We're going to discuss, I think, agreements in more detailed. I think, yeah, I think we have a section that actually covered different type of agreements. Yeah. So, but this is actually what that question was actually trying to test. So it's trying to test this actually from us. That yeah, you need to understand this. That non-disclosure, the NDA is the agreement that you sign, you make user sign during the onboarding process that they are not going to disclose any sensitive information they would come across in this role or in this position. Then the next thing which we have there is the security policy awareness. Yeah, you make them sign this as well. You take them through the class, of course, not just signing it. You create security awareness program and training for users. Actually, take them through some practical case scenario of spoofing email. Yeah, some companies do have, you take them through that. If possible, simulate that, send them random spoofing email and see how many people are going to click on it. How many people will understand that, oh, this is actually a spoofing email and not click on it. In the company where I work now, they do that periodically every month. They send spoofing email. And if you're among those that click on it, they will call you, you see. So you want to train users so they understand that and stay away from that. So that when it comes from outside, they will as well not click it, right? Yeah, the next one which we have there is the user account and resource access. Yeah, creating user account and placing the resource restriction. Okay, for this is what you have access to. For this is what you have access to. That actually helps as well. Then the next one is the issue security badge and smart card. Yeah, most security badge, most card actually serves as security badge and then smart card. So all these things actually they all falls under the personnel risks and policy, right? Just to um be sure that you're taking measure, you're protecting your infrastructure, and you as well taking some appropriate measure and policy to protect the personnel involved, the personnel using this infrastructure or platform. Then the next one which we need to consider is the user's habit, right? Clean desk policy. What do they refer by that? You go some people's table or some people's office and you see information scattered all over, and this information contains sensitive data, sensitive files. personal identifiable information. For example, a doctor just having the desk filled with people's file, and someone else is there that the person can easily get access to the other person's information, or just screen grab other information that he or she is not supposed to. So you want to maintain clean desk policy, making sure that yes, the users they comply to this, that they don't misplace or place some personal identifiable information anyhow. They always comply to clean desk policy. Yeah, the next one which we have there is the physical and digital document shredding. Yeah, I've talked about shredding, and I've explained what it means. It's just yeah, a device and others. Another thing which they mentioned here is mitigate dumpster diving. Physical, of course, physical and digital document shredding mitigate dumpster dive. I don't know. Let me quickly explain what dumpster diving means. Dumpster diving just means going through, like, call it trash, yeah, trash bin or others, just going through there to see if you're going to see any information, if you're going to pick any information that are vital or that you can use to track something or to identify a person here. Yeah, but that was probably thrown in the bin without proper measure. And so that is why you need to actually take this proper measure, most especially if your company has this policy. You don't just discard some information, just throw normal paper that contains PII in the bin just like that. No, you want to shred them, go through the normal procedure or the normal policy for the company. Yeah. The next one which we have there is personally owned device. And we have two categories here, which is the mobile device management and bring your own device. So personally on device, some organization they allow that, some they strictly don't allow that if they don't want to make provision this to this thing mentioned here, which is the mobile device management. Some organization don't allow you to connect your phone to their network. It's against their law because they know your phone is your personal device. And so if you are connecting to their network, then you are kind of giving room from anyone can access your phone and your phone is connected to their network, then your phone can be like a bridge. So some organization they understand that people will always do that. So they provide the mobile device management to always manage your phone. So they have of a sector in your phone that is well protected with this device management. They have a sector that is well protected and is locked, kind of. So even if your phone is being stolen or they stole your phone, right? The person in possession of your phone can access your personal data, but they can't access that complaint file or anything related to the company because they will just easily lock that completely and erase that part of the company information from your phone, actually. Yeah, and bring your device. I've mentioned this. I said some organization, yeah, they allow that. Some will just place no to that. They don't have time for all those additional this. So it's part of the personal risks and what is it? User training. Think I've mentioned this. Ongoing, yeah, ongoing. You need to determine if it's ongoing, and what does that mean? Like, is it monthly? Is it weekly? Is it yearly? Is it quarterly? As the case may be. But you need to. The basic emphasis is training your staff. You need to train your staff so they are well knowledgeable about everything, mostly the security of the infrastructure which they support. And of course, the training should be done on role basis. Yeah, you don't just start training. For example, um, you're training a data analyst or data entry person, you are training the person on penetration testing. That doesn't make sense to the person. You train the person based on the role. Oh, I'm doing data analysis, I'm doing data entry, then I'm getting training related to data entry or data analysis, and I'm not getting training for penetration testing or cybersecurity expert. So you channel your training based on the role actually, right? So it's role based. The next thing which we have there is the computer-based training. Yeah, train them possible, simulate those things using the computer, um, re- with using the computer tools or infrastructure present We have the next thing, which is the gamification, and we have capture the flag there. Capture the gamification basically means just using game to do some training, right? And a good example is capture the flag. Capture the flag contest is done all over the world. It's more like a gaming this thing where you are doing real cyber security analysis. You're capturing the flag. You're getting like identify vulnerability and the threats that can attack, but you are doing that in the gaming way. You are enjoying it, but you are really, really, really doing a great work in form of security measures and others, right? Then the next one, which we have phishing campaign and simulation. We've explained phishing campaign many and spoofing. Yeah, you need to they have a very nice this thing here. They say launch and learn. Yeah. People like free food. Yeah, that is just the truth, right? People likes free food. So you can set up things like free lunch and you train them on this and you can bring in personnel that are very influential to take these things. So people learn why they are even enjoying and they simulate this and see how it works actually. Can be part of a penetration testing, yeah. And user offboarding. Most times people neglect this part actually. They only consider onboarding and others. But most times you see some complaint and a user will just place resignation and the person just goes and they don't do some things in line. They don't take some measures. We have termination letter or resignation letter. So when you get termination letter or resignation letter, what are the things you do? Do you need to get this user, delete the files? You need to what? You need to do something. There are some policies that should be always in place, most especially right when the person dropping when you are terminating the person or when the person you need to get the company whatever resources in his first position, and if need be you delete or you store. Yeah, in most times, yeah, they have exit interview with the person to know whatever and the current situation to tell you what does he or she thinks was some security labs and what just discuss around that return of equipment, yeah, knowledge transfer. Oh, this is very very important actually. Knowledge transfer. Yeah, most times some people have what we call key risks, you know. Key is like having just one person being knowledgeable about a particular sector or a department of a company. Then that is key. You're just building your infrastructure, your team on key. There should be knowledge transfer where at least more than one person can actually serve a particular role, right? So in case of avoiding like this, if the person should drop in time resignation letter, the other person can easily take up and the other person start building as well the next person, right? That would have similar knowledge. Then account disablement or delete. Yeah, this is very, very vital. Like for majority of the companies which I've worked with, they don't delete your file, your details immediately. They kind of disable you for at least 3 to 6 months before you are then deleted. Yeah, so it just depends on the policy, the company policy, and yeah, and what is applicable to the company. Yeah. Okay. A quick review on this. Um, yeah. Securing personnel management can be implemented with job rotation, mandatory vacation, separation of duty. We've all discussed this, right? And yeah, securing personnel management, yeah, job rotation, asking them to leave after 6 months, like in Amazon, which I observe. You rotate the managers, you go and manage this team, you go and manage this team. Mandatory vacation. Yeah, even they don't want to go, you force them to go on vacation so someone else can come there. Not not the company does this mandatory vacation. Sometimes you mistake them that they are very concerned about the well-being of their staff. Oh, that is not true. Majority of the time, the mandatory vacation is not because they are concerned about you taking your vacation. It's because they want to actually find out, is there any irregularity in that role where you are? They want you to leave so that someone else will come and confirm. Is he keeping to the standard operating procedure for that role? That is one of the way which they do that. But most times they present it to you as if they are interested in you going to rest. It's not a true. That's not a true case. Yeah. So separation of duty. Yeah, that is where we consider what is it called? The risk analysis level one, level two, level three, right? With that, it's kind of secure personnel management. It's reduced the chance of fraud and others. It does not necessarily take that off because, yes, even if you have four level verification, you have level one, level two, level three, level four. The whole four level might decide to cohere together, agree together, and then commit a very big fraud. Yeah. So it does not take that off completely, but it reduces that very well. Yeah. Employer and contract background check helps ensure trustworthy. Very true, right? Doing background check, confirming we mentioned to ourselves social media, and checking the things you post online, running some web search about you, your presence, what says about you. Do you have credit, unpaid credit history? Your credit record, how is it? Do you have some people goes around actually collecting loan and others from company and they don't want to pay, and you don't know this guy file your name on what they call the bureau in Nigeria. They call it is it the buratine something something like if you go to paste that what is it called um pay money and the rest of them, the likes of them, those companies in Nigeria, you get money, I did not pay. I did not pay, and maybe the deadline reached. They file your name there. So people can just go online and search this thing and they see your name that you defrauded these people, you collected this money, this loan. So you want to pay attention to some of all those things so they don't come back and then negatively affect you when you are planning on getting a very good job. And take for instance that the company that wants to recruit you is saying such information about you online, it's definitely going to affect their decision about giving you that role negatively. Yeah. User onboarding occurs after hiring and include training and account provision. Yeah, of course, is user onboarding. That is the period where they're going to make you sign the NDA rather not NDA, the non-disclosure agreement and others. Yeah, clear decks and secure data disposal policy, reduce the risks of security breach. Very true. Yeah, that takes us to our next episode, which is third party risk management. Third party risk management. Yeah, so third party risk management, it's let me give you a nutshell of this. So third party risk management is just about there are some operations or some services that you basically don't have the whole resources to manage in an organization, right? And so majority of this service, what you do is you outsource them, right? You outsource them to a third party. And so when you do this, it's in a way it becomes now your responsibility to be sure to make sure that this third party which you are outsourcing this thing, this particular service to, they are operating, they have a standard risk management so as to reduce your chances of being hacked or being attacked through your third party vendor, right? So the objective of this is actually to explain the importance of policies to organization security as well, right? The importance of policies to organization security. So you want to manage this third party. If I'm giving, for example, I'm giving my IT, it's common thing you see, right? Most organizations you see them operating, and when you approach them, maybe you approach them for IT job, they'll tell you, oh, we don't have our IT team on We don't have our IT team on premise. In fact, our IT team is not managed by us. It's outsourced to Amazon, for example, right? So yeah. So majority of them actually don't manage that. So there are some services you're doing and you don't have the resources or the infrastructure to handle that. And you outsource that to people that you feel have the necessary infrastructure to manage that for you. So that helps you then concentrate on your key key tasks or key production or whatever as the case may be. Yeah. Yeah. So for third party risk management, you need to have measurement system analysis, which is referred to as the MSA most times. It should be qualitative actually. Yeah. Can identify, yeah, it can identify supply chain improvements. Yeah, it should be qualitative. So you need to have this in place actually to measure, to have the qualitative assurance, yeah, that these guys are actually having this thing covered well for you. And some of them is what we're going to consider in these supply chain risks, security risks, hardware and software vendor. Yeah, and just as measured, right? As mentioned, yeah, you might not, in most times, you don't have those resources and others, the hardware, the software and others. You outsource this to people that have this. And so you need to be sure, you need to have some measures to actually be sure that this qualitative assurance is there. And to be sure that their hardware and software vendors that um, the end of service life, popularly called the EOL or the EOSL, the end of service life or the end of life means no more patch of that service. So you want to be sure there are method of you measuring that yes, this hardware and software these vendors are actually using, um, they have not reached the end of service life basically. That they at some point, yeah, basically with Microsoft, for example, you see you no longer hear of Microsoft's SP, right? Well, there was when Microsoft SP was like the only operating system we have. But at some point, Microsoft started saying, "Oh, we've reached the end of support for SP," right? They're kind of going away completely from that, telling you that hey, we no longer support this. So if you're still using it, you are prone to vulnerability, and we are not there to push out patch that will update or correctively fix corrective of course the control measure that will correctly fix those vulnerability or weakness that might be in those device as the case may be. Yeah, the cloud service provider security compliance, right? You know, of course, this is third party, right? Majority of the time we use cloud provider as a third party for some product or so service as the case may be. IT and others are related. Yeah, for storage as well. Basically, that is what most people use cloud provider for storage. You just go to, if it's AWS, you get your S3, you store as much file as you want. But then you need to consider the security of this third party. So, but for cloud, I think we're going to come across this more, but let me just emphasize more on this. Cloud security actually is not all restricted or is not all to the cloud provider. It's a shared service. Security in cloud is shared service. Please note that it's very, very important. Security in cloud is shared service. For part of the shared service falls to the provider, the provider, and the other part falls to the user as well. So both people put in place to make sure the security. So you don't just because you're having your listing in cloud, just relax, not do your major, and the bad guy actually bridges them through you. Then they are going to sue you, not you who suing them. They're going to sue you. So you need to take some measures to be sure that your infrastructure is secured. Yeah, because of course, if they can track through you, if they can breach through you, then the next thing they start thinking, because AWS, Azure, they are all public cloud. The next thing they start thinking is, how can I bridge the hypervisor? The hypervisor is what's like paid virtualization, right? How can I live from this person's virtual environment to another user in the public virtual environment? When we go through this, what I mentioned earlier, setting up server, setting up server, Windows Server 10, no, might do Windows Server 16, or yeah, then setting up a client, Windows 10 and others. Those, by the time you set up those things, it's going to give you an idea of what virtualization really means and how it works. And yeah, even if we don't go into details into cloud setting up virtualization and others because it might be money expensive, but when you do that local one, you're going to have an insight of how it works and the connection between things, and that is going to give you an understanding of what I just mentioned now, the virtual, the hypervisor. The hypervisor helps you run this virtual machine actually, and you are having multiple machine. They appears to you as if they are real, but they are not real. In my system, for example, in my system, I can have three clients or three virtual machines, as the case may be, and all is appearing to be a standalone system on its own, but they are not real, they are all virtual. Yeah, we're going to do that, even though I know it's not part of this course. I'm just going to do that. So when we are talking about things like this in this course and you have that understanding already, it helps you be able to join one or two things together and understand that better. Yeah. Then, yeah, next one we should have there is contractor data privacy notice. Yeah, because you want to you want to have for every contractor, depending on vendor, you want to have a data privacy notice with them. You don't just expose any information to them without them having to sign some basic agreement with you, right? Yeah. Yeah. So the next thing we should have there is the software developer using third-party components. Yeah. And the company merger and system links. So all these things are actually means which you're going to check to be sure that your third-party risk management are actually in place. The emphasis will be on the hardware and software vendor, basically. Yeah. Another thing we can do is to prevent unauthorized data sharing actually. That is prevent it from being from happening in the first place using what we refer to as the DLCP. Yeah, the data loss and prevention system. It reduces intentional or unintentional sensitive data exfiltration. So we can prevent this actually from data sharing from unauthorized access using this data loss prevention system. Okay, a quick um, a quick review of what we have touched so far. We've touched the measurement system analysis, which is the MSA, can identify supply chain improvement. And we've gone through some of these supply chain improvements, right? The supply chain risks, including unstable or insecure hardware, software, or contractor, or suppliers not meeting security standard, sensitive data stored in public cloud, present a third-party risks. Yeah, talked about that, talked about Amazon and AWS as the public cloud. Yeah, it actually exposes you to risks, but then it's better, right? It's more secured. For example, a good example is saying storing my money in the bank expose me to more risks. But it's better than bringing your money and leaving your money at home. Actually, yeah, the cloud, the public cloud, to be precise, expose you to more risks because it's a more target, right, for these bad guys. Same thing, it's the bank is more target for bad guys, right? But then they are more secure than saying, yeah, you're just having on-premise and other. So it's more secure actually. Yeah. Intentional disclosure of sensitive data can be controlled. Yeah, using this. That is what I said. Another thing we can do is to prevent unauthorized data sharing using the data loss privacy system. Okay. So that takes us to the next episode, which is agreement. I basically explained these agreements types actually. Yeah, but we'll just run through this. Mm, just run through this. So it's still the objective of this is to explain the importance of policy to organization security. Organizational security. Yeah. So we have many types of agreement actually. We have agreements, technical agreement, and we have the business side agreement. Yeah, so part of the technical side agreement is the first one we have here is the interconnection security agreement. And this is more legal, yeah. Legal review, regulatory compliance. It helps you to be in line with what are the regulatory compliance. For example, we see for PCI DSS for the industry, right? For if I'm dealing with anything related to getting people's payments, card details, I need to comply with that. If I'm dealing with, we saw the one for the financial related tax. If I'm dealing with that, I need to comply with that. If I'm dealing with EU citizen, then I need to comply with GDPR, right? Yeah. So and most times, majority of the times, they are legally bounded. So that is why they say legal review. For me personally, even self, not just for the and not just for the interconnection security entity. And to start with, I want you to actually have that instead of interconnection system agreement actually bonds or holds two entities together. Yeah, though this guy didn't say that here, but it actually that is where it comes in play. When I'm talking about entity, I mean it might be company or department. Maybe I'm having to do a business with one other entity that are into similar product or infrastructure which I support, and I want to actually do something, then I want to bound that together using interconnection security agreement actually. Yeah. So vulnerability scan results, mandatory training and certification, those are the things you need to put into consideration while working with this. Yeah, the input from IT security professional, very, very crucial. Yeah. The next agreement which we have here is very if you're going to see this like not less than 10 question from your exam. The service level agreement. You most times they'll just call it SLA, but they need you to understand that it's a service level agreement. So this is like the agreement, the bound, yeah, the contextual documents that establish what if you're dealing with someone, what are the services that will be provided by the person, and what are the condition or the yardstick that states that this person has attained the services to 100% or to 50% or to this percent, and if this person do not achieve these services that are listed here, what are the conditions to consider? Is this person going to give me some payment back? If he's going to do that, what are the conditions, right? So it's very, very important. So for example, a good example is if I want to bring in internet now as the security person, maybe you're working on the internet, setting up your network infrastructure, internet to be precise, ISP, you reach out to one of the ISP. We have majority of the ISP provider in Nigeria, right? Unlike here, we have couple. We have the main one, yeah, MTN is serving as one. We have where are them? We have the ISN. We have there are so many of them actually. So I want to actually get the service level agreements that okay, you're going to providing me internet for every month. I'm going to pay this. If there is downtime in 1 hour, for example, or 3 hours, just as the case may be, what is the compensation for that? What is the condition to deal with that, right? Those are very, very important to be documented and signed between both parties, right? So it's basically a contractual document stating level of service or level of agreement between you. Guarantee service uptime. Yeah, of course, if there is none. Consequence for not meeting the requirements. If there is any downtime and others, how do you people compensate me? If I have 1 hour downtime, maybe I'm not paying for the month. If I have downtime for If I have uptime for 99.9%, okay, this is the amount I'm paying. If I'm having for that just 95%, this is the amount I'm paying. If I'm having for 80%, as the case may be, this is the amount I'm paying. All those things need to be stated clearly there, right? So it's very, very important. Um, let me quickly show you the service level agreement for Azure. Mhm. Yeah, so this is what basically service level agreement looks like. You see, these guys having detail of the whole product which they render, and each one of them you see the conditions and the terms. Yeah, so about this document, the service level agreement for Microsoft Online Service is part of your Microsoft volume licensing agreement. Capitalized terms used but not defined in the service that will have the meaning assigned to them in the agreement. The service that applies to Microsoft Online service listed herein, right? But does not apply to separate brand service made available with or connected to the service or to they're just writing their conditions as well. Yeah, so basically you need to read through all this actually to understand what you are signing because you need to sign this at the end. But I just want to show you for the example for this product, the Dynamics 365 Business Center. Yeah, downtime. Any period of time when end user are unable to log into their instance. Okay, they use the word instance in cloud to refer to as like for example, they will say your virtual machine instance, like your virtual machine currently running in the cloud, you refer to it as an instance. That is what they use the word instance for here. Yeah, uptime percentage. This is how you calculate it, so you know, right? You know, okay, if I'm having uptime percent less than this, I'm having credit of, if I'm having less than 99, I'm having credit 99.9, I'm having credit of 25%, meaning they are going to give me 25% on my credit card. If I'm having for 99, I'm having 50%. If I'm having for less than this, I'm having 100%. You see? So depending on the condition of the service, you can read this into them and get them give you this money or credit your um give your credit card the value of this. So there is something I needed to point here when I'm saying this thing now. This thing deals with the percentage of this, the percentage of time, it deals with availability. And I want you to actually, I just want to chip it to you that the availability is availability. I've explained this before. Availability is achieved. High availability is achieved with what we call redundancy, or in cloud world, what we call making it available in several locations. And so that is one thing why these guys will be telling you that they will have your service or your instant run 100%. Like there won't be downtime because they have high availability. For example, they might have redundancy of your service, this particular service running in 6 different locations. It increases your availability, right? Yeah, you want to note that for the exam as well. Just have idea of this, which I just explained. It's going to be very helpful. And these are all the services Microsoft Azure offer and their condition, right? Say for this, for this 99% gives me just 5% credits. Why for this service, 99% giving 25% credit service. So The service determines the credits they are going to give. They have different conditions for it. So you want to know which service you're running with them, and you want to know which agreement. And these are the things you read before you confirm if you're working with them or if you're not working with them and others, right? Yeah. Okay. So for the business, on the business side, we also have this. We've talked about the technical part of agreements, which we have. For the business side, we have a memorandum of understanding, which they normally refer to as this. You want to note the difference between this actually, most especially this MOU and MOA. The memorandum of understanding, broad terms of agreement between parties. The memorandum of agreement, detailed terms between parties. You see? So this is actually almost similar thing, but this one is just broad, and this one is more detailed of this, more detailed of the understanding. Memorandum of understanding is what they refer to as a memorandum of agreement. So memorandum of understanding, but you hear some people say like, oh, they just give it at the initial points. Then when you now make up your mind on others, they will now give you memorandum of agreement to sign. Do I have hmm, wanted to go check for that, but don't necessarily need that much. So yeah, the next one we should have here is the business partnership agreement. This one is legally binding as well. Responsibility, it's well states the responsibility involved between both parties. Okay, this party, this is what this the business partnership agreement. This party, this is what you are going to take care of. This is what you are going to do. This is your investment there, and this is the level of decision making you have. All these things are well and clearly stated. So both parties knows their responsibility with that at every point. They know what they are handling and what they are not handling. They know their investment and what they are not doing. They know all those things very well. And the last one which we have here is the non-disclosure agreement. We've as well touched this before, right? Prevents sensitive data disclosure to third party. Yeah, you want to make your employee your employees sign this right during the onboarding. That was one of the questions we have on number 8 there, right? You want to make them sign this so they don't disclose anything, be it the trademark of your business, some sensitive information, or as the case may be, maybe it's something not even working well, but you guys are actually using that. And yeah, and some organization they do some shady things to just beat some of these regulations, because of course these regulations, to keep up some of these regulations, are very expensive, so they just find some little ways to bypass that. Yeah, so once you sign this thing, you're not discussing that with anybody. Even if you know your organization don't do that, you cannot discuss that because this is binding you, right? Because that is considered as sensitive information to that organization. So you can't discuss that with anybody. Yeah, you need to know that and understand that and how it works. Yeah, I think I have a sample of that non-disclosure environment. Let me quickly look at that. Yeah, this is a sample of non-disclosure environment between a penetration testing and yourself. So a penetration testing company named M5 company Computer Security. So if you're signing this with them, you need to know what you're signing. That you need to read through all these things. You see their conditions and their times. So you see the disclosures are this is on this between this and this. So they put your name there. Others. The disclosures agreed to make available to the recipient certain confidential information as defined below of the disclosure for the purpose of performing infrastructure information security assessment of the disclosure. Yeah. Additionally, while performing penetration testing activity, the recipient may discover confidential information about the disclosure. Yeah. You discover that, but you are not allowed. You are confined. Definition of confidential, any information, technical, that are very important, right? So this thing kind of agrees and bind you on that. So you can't discuss that. The moment you sign, they sign, you sign. Then you guys have agreement already on that. Yeah, so at this point, I'm going to pause here and allow you guys to ask questions and let me know. Ben, are you still with me? Okay, Ben. And do you have any questions so far? I would over the week or yeah, maybe before the day ends today, I will try to share some of those things, the ISO 5 for a Windows 10, a Windows server, and then I will try as well download a virtual box and share. Then if you can install it, good. But if you cannot, I will help you out in our next class. And but if you want to do that before the next class, you can reach me, just book a time and I will let you know my schedule and I will help you out. And just to play around that actually, even if it's not part of this, I think it will help you be a more better tech person. And yeah, we're going to start with that. We're going to introduce Active Directory, even if you're not going to do much around it, but you're going to understand how Active Directory works and what are the core things about it. It's going to help a whole lot. Yeah. Yeah, so Ben, do you have any question for me so far? Okay. None at the moment. Okay. Okay. Um, at this point, I will end the class for today, and I hope to see you guys on Saturday. I
Sorry to
will share.
hear.
Okay.
You say you want to share some links. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
I will
if you
share
did that
that.
already.
Yeah, I will share that with you.
Okay, so I already gave you access to the drive. If you want to
Okay, I
like,
can upload. I can upload that myself now.
yes. So if you want
Okay.
to go to week 3 and maybe depend on the link you're sending, you can open a Word document and put it in there and let everybody know if what it
Okay.
is.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
All right,
Yeah,
sounds
so I'll do that myself. I was thinking of sharing that with you. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's well. Okay. Take care.
all right, thanks.
Mm.